All right, so this comment here, they want to know about shrink and e-commerce business. Now I do resell, so I'm going to use that as my basis for this. But pretty much any online platform that sells product can have shrink. So for resell, and we can probably lump a Walmart in with that because they are technically reselling goods from manufacturers and they have an online platform they sell through. But again, it's important to remember here that loss for Walmart is going to be different from somebody like me who sells through like eBay and stuff. So here's how you have shrink in an e-commerce business. The primary source of that is going to be returns scams. The most of the loss that I get in my business that costs me a lot of money is in false returns or lies about returns, stuff like that. So for example, on eBay, I have to accept returns to do business. Everybody expects returns, and most times they expect free shipping. So here's where shrink occurs. I sell an item, somebody buys it, and for whatever reason, they decide they don't want to pay for it. So they open a case against me, item not as described, or item didn't arrive. Now, if they say the item didn't arrive, it was damaged on arrival, I can fight those. It takes time. That in itself is a loss. But if they say an item is not as described, I can try to fight that, but that's mainly a losing case. A lot of people have caught onto that with eBay. So I have to pay to have the item returned because, again, in order for me to do business successfully on an e-commerce platform, I have to offer free returns because everybody wants that. The item comes back. Here's this another portion of loss. The item can be damaged. I've had people cut t-shirts that they bought just to spite me. They've cut it, and I can try to say, hey, it came back damaged, and then they say, oh, I didn't do that, you did that, so you don't have to pay me a return. So generally on those, we just pay the returns. We refund them the money and route 2 times the shipping to get it to them and shipping back. And now I have to get rid of that item because it's damaged to a point I can't resell. Now I try to resell the items I can. Sometimes people return stuff honestly, but I sell cosmetics, and that becomes shrink because sometimes people will return a completely different item, and I have to prove that, and that's extremely hard to prove. So they'll send their used makeup and get a replacement, or they'll exchange is what they'll do. They'll do a improper exchange, which is where maybe they really liked a lipstick. This has happened to me a couple times. They'll return their used tube of lipstick to me, keep the new one, and then say I'm lying, and then eBay closes the case and I'm out the money. So that is how shrink occurs there. People can also steal stuff from you, which is by claiming they didn't get it and then messing with the tracking, showing an empty box, taking pictures of an empty box. These things all work. I don't like them. I'm an honest person, so I don't use these, but you can test these. I'm not condoning the behavior, but there is a high rate of shrink within resale because people do things like this. So, I don't know how to combat that, but it does happen. I'm sure Walmart has similar things that happen, but the difference between like Walmart and me is that I have less tools at my disposal. Walmart can offer you credit only in some cases. I can't do that on eBay. I have to eat the money for that. So I have to be careful about what I sell. Now, part of my business, kind of an off of what you asked kind of thing, is I try to sell used items, like used parts that can be reused to repair things, to minimize that, because in my experience, people are less likely to try to make false claims against items they're going to use to repair something else. It still happens, but it's a lot less. Cosmetics, clothing, stuff like that tends to happen a lot more. And that's how shrink occurs, because I have to eat the cost on that. I lose money. If they don't return the item, it's technically been stolen at that point, but I can't prove that because I don't have a physical store. Is my shrink less than a small business with a brick and mortar? Absolutely it is, because people can't just walk into the inventory I have here and just start picking things out. They have to specifically make an order. They're not going to be able to like bulk steal stuff. And there's also things to look for in your resale business when you notice somebody's trying to do that. It's apparent. So that's how shrink occurs within an e-commerce business. If we want a bigger picture of that, let's say you buy through a t-shirt site. Most t-shirt sites that you buy those printed shirts from, they don't resell their stuff as used. So they have to trash that new product. Also, some of those use printing houses. They can't really return those. If they are returned to the printing warehouse with 100% guarantees, those shirts are generally destroyed, and that's counted as shrink too. I think it's irresponsible. They should sell it as used. They won't, because they can write it off, and B, they don't sell used. They're not going to damage their reputation for that, so it's unfortunate. But hope that answers your question on it. That's how shrink occurs.